lucky moms here today. With me here on the show, we have Wangeshi, the mothership. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you.
And we want to talk about pregnancy and breastfeeding. And I'll be giving you details as far as how you can win yourself one of her packages here, which is going to consist of an unga and maybe
a nut butter, and then an unga and my sweet chili sauce.
All right. So you want to stay tuned for details of that coming up shortly. But let's jump straight into it with our baby friend here and talk about how long one should be breastfeeding for.
So what WHO recommends is 2 years of breastfeeding with 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding. So with the 6 months, it means that baby is not having anything else. Baby is not having water, baby is not having formula or anything else but just breastfeeding. Of course, the situations that come up where mom has to supplement with formula, but the preferable thing is if you need to supplement, you use formula and not animal milk.
Okay.
Or you see someone like me for help.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell us a bit about you and your background and how you got into all of this in the first place, because you're actually producing baby food, and would we call it baby food? What would you describe
I produce uji, which is new. I'm actually just 3 weeks old in the uji business.
Okay.
But I do nut butters, cashew nut butter, almond butter, peanut butter, and sweet chili sauce, which I've been doing for about 4 years now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 years.
Okay.
And then now I just introduced the unga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the unga is for moms and babies?
I have 4 different lines. I have one called Ujibora, sorry, which is for the whole family. And then I have Mtoto Bora, which is for babies from 6 months. I have Lishe Bora, which is a fantastic product. It has sweet potatoes, pumpkin, soya, millet. Like it's a whole meal on its own, which is good for picky eaters, for people who are recovering from any kind of disease, people who need to add weight. It's just really nutritious. Okay. And then I have Mamabora, which is for moms or for women. Basically, it's for women. So anybody from pregnancy or even before pregnancy to pregnant moms, to breastfeeding moms, to women in menopause and beyond. Okay. It has different things like Sim that helps with calcium and breast milk production. It has beetroot, which helps with iron, and if you have like anemia or anything like that, it has oats, which helps with breast milk production as well. Okay. Yeah.
So which came first for you? Because obviously you talk a lot about breastfeeding and pregnancy, and here you are also producing a line of whole foods. Which came first, or what sort of inspired, did this side of things inspire this one as well?
Wow. My life actually came full circle.
Nice.
So I studied something that was very different. I did international studies in uni.
Okay.
After that, I came and worked in Kakuma refugee camp with UNHCR.
Wow.
That's in the humanitarian world. And then after about 4 years, I felt like my heart was just not there.
Okay.
In my big plan of life when I was younger, I always imagined that by the time I was 35, I should be getting into food business. And before the age of 35, I'd be doing humanitarian work. Okay. And then my big plan was to one day work with women and children, but I just did not have the how to do that.
Okay.
In 2017, I got my first baby, and then I was slapped, like nearly pigwa na butwa. It was shocking because everything people talk about is how beautiful motherhood is, but nobody ever tells you the other side of it, that it's hard, that there'll be tears, that like I was just too shocked. Okay. So now from the shock of motherhood is how the mothership KE was born. It's a space where I decided to start talking about my motherhood journey and talking about the conversations that people were too scared to have. Okay. That I cried last night, it was hard. I want to run away from my baby. I love the child, but
you just want to run away.
I just want to run away for 3 hours. I want to run away for just one night or for 3 nights or something like that, you know? That conversations that when you have with older women or other women, they keep telling you to be grateful. But you see, it doesn't mean that I'm not grateful because right now I'm having a hard time. Okay. It doesn't mean that next week I'll be having a hard time. All right. So I just created a space where people could talk about that. Then now from talking about that is where I realized people have a lot of issues with breastfeeding. And I kept supporting moms with breastfeeding over and over and over. And then my husband kept encouraging me to study, and I didn't want to do it. I just did not feel like that is what I wanted to do with my life. Yeah. Then he convinced me enough last year, and I went to school for breastfeeding, and I did that last year.
There's
and now
school for breastfeeding?
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
So I did a course for breastfeeding. I did a course for child nutrition. Then now I started now the Mothership Village,
Okay.
which is where now I'm trying to create a village for moms to gain support through their early postpartum to about 5 years
Okay.
of life.
Okay.
Then with the Uji, I just never understood how people give their children Uji.
Huh.
I just didn't, I've never really felt the nutritious part of Uji that moms really love to give. And then again, my husband, when my daughter was around a year and a half and she really wasn't eating because she was teething, she started bringing us this Uji from Thika that had arrowroots and sweet potatoes and pumpkin and peanuts and all these things. And I kept saying, yeah, this is the kind of Uji people should be having. And then that's how actually Lishebora was born.
Okay.
So now from Lishebora, now the rest were born.
All right, fantastic. And so in terms of breastfeeding and pregnancy and the like, one of the major questions is a lot of people ask if they use a breast pump, how long can they actually store the breast milk for?
Okay. So that depends a lot on, one, the baby's age and health. So if, for example, if you have a preemie or you have a baby who's unwell, the conditions of pumping and the conditions of storing the milk is very different from a full-term baby. So we'll talk about a full-term baby. Of course, you need to sterilize your parts. Then once you pump, the milk can stay fresh at room temperature, assuming your parts were completely well cleaned and sterilized for about 7 hours, room temperature. In a fridge for about, depending again on how cold your fridge is, 4 days is safe, but 4 to 7 days depending on how cold it is. In your normal house freezer, about 6 months, but not on the door, inside the freezer.
Okay.
In a deep freezer, about a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Again, all depending on how sterile the environment that the milk was stored was pumped
into.
and then stored. Of course, how clean your hands were. With a preemie, you need to be a lot more careful.
Right.
Yeah.
You talked about not understanding how a lot of mothers were feeding their child, their children Uji. You feel there wasn't much nutrition to those, and until you found that Uji from Thika, which hopefully then you've tried to replicate in to some degree, but in a powder form that's easily transportable. So how does one tell if the baby is actually feeding enough?
Okay, so for a baby below 6 months, or especially for a newborn baby, weight gain is number one. So when you give birth, the baby has to lose weight. Generally, they lose weight. About 7% is normal. About 10% is a bit concerning, but 7 to 10% is what generally happens. Then once you take your baby home, by 2 weeks, your baby needs to have regained their birth weight. So in case the baby has not regained their birth weight, or if the baby develops jaundice, especially after you go home, let's say after day 5, around day 5, your baby develops jaundice, generally means the baby is not getting enough breast milk. Okay. Diaper output is also very important. In the first days, it's 1 diaper per day of life. So day 1, 1 wet diaper, day 2, 2 wet diapers, day 3, like that. And then also in the early days too, when the baby is passing meconium is the green poop, has to be passed generally by the time you're still in hospital. Then after that, at least 1 to 3, or rather, no, 1 to 5 wet poopy diapers. Okay. In the first days. So that indicates that your baby is having enough. Okay. And especially the urine. If your baby is having less than 6 diaper with urine after 6 days of life, it's a bit concerning.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And so that should be a good pointer, by counting and checking the
diapers. And then now from there also weight gain. If your baby is gaining weight according to their curve, based on the card that you're given in hospital, if your baby is gaining weight according to their curve, based on their birth weight, then the baby is getting enough.
Okay. And should people be waking up their babies for feeding?
In the early days, definitely, because in the early days, babies really tend to sleep a lot. Some of them tend to sleep a lot, not all of them, but some of them tend to sleep a lot. So at night, you should be waking them at least every 3 hours, and during the day, the same. Another concern that moms have is that we keep telling moms to feed babies every 3 hours, but the reason we tell moms that is so that at least if the baby is sleeping too much, you wake the baby up every 3 hours. Okay. If your baby is feeding every hour or every hour and a half, it's still okay and it's still normal. It doesn't mean that you don't have enough milk, as long as, again, the diaper output and the weight gain is okay. But 3 hours should be the max, and that's why that is told in hospital.
All right. Yeah. Well, at this point, I want to remind you that I have a giveaway for you, courtesy of the mothership here, Wangeshi herself. And the question I think I'm going to ask you is just to give me 2 ingredients that are included in her Uji mix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Mamabora.
The Mamabora Uji mix. She's been talking about them. Hopefully you've been paying attention. I have 2 packages to award to 2 winners. It's not going to be, you know, exclusive to parents or men or women. As long as you've been paying attention, you stand yourself a chance to win 1 packet of that Uji mix there, and either a nut butter
or the sauce.
Or the sauce. Okay, so 111 444 111 is the SMS line. You can keep those coming in as we continue our discussion here. Let's talk about the mother now. So she's working very hard to ensure that she has, you know, enough breast milk for the baby, but her nutrition is, well, absolutely key. And maybe you can touch on what a mother should be focusing on for herself in that season.
Okay. One of the things I like to tell moms is that I personally really do not believe in eat this just to get milk. I believe in having a well-balanced, nutritious meal and hydrating very well. Focusing a lot on iron, because of course you've lost a lot of that, and also on calcium to try and rebuild your bone density, and then also things that are going to help strengthen your pelvic floor. But in terms of milk production, just green leafy vegetables, having just balance your plate. Don't necessarily have to eat something that is in excess for you to have enough milk, just a well-balanced meal.
Okay. There's a question here from someone asking or saying, I lost my baby last year and up to date, I have problems with stopping milk from my breast. I've tried medication, but it didn't help. Should I get help from the doctor to know what to use to stop it from coming? Maybe, I don't know if you'd be able to touch on that, or else we can advise them to see a doctor, but your comments on that.
Okay. So number 1, yes, definitely see your doctor. Involution is what it's called, like your body now starting to stop producing breast milk. Doesn't happen until around 40 days after the last breastfeed. So perhaps maybe she keeps removing the milk. So that, of course, like breast milk is demand and supply. So if you pump, that's not still the last day, even if your baby is still not breastfeeding. So first I would encourage her to see her doctor. Then now just try and reduce. I don't know how much she's getting. It's a bit of a hard question to answer. Depending on how much she's getting, if she needs to pump because of engorgement, then what I would be doing is reducing the amount that is pumped every day. So for example, if today you pump and you get 100, tomorrow you make sure you pump 90. And then after about 2 days you pump 80, and then just go reducing every other day. Cold cabbage leaves. Just take cabbage leaves, put them in the freezer, place them on your breast, or you can buy like a gel pad you can find on some Instagram pages, or maybe even on Biashara Street. Put it in the freezer and put it on your breast. Avoid massaging your breast, avoid stimulating your nipples, like anything that is just going to make your body think that it still needs to produce milk. And then definitely see the doctor for some medication.
Well, in the few moments I have left, let's talk about the Mamabora line once again, and just remind us again what you have on offer. There's these you've brought us, I think, 3 packets or 3 different types of Uji mix. You can explain those as well as talk about your nut butters and the sweet chili sauce, and we'll award a winner by the end of the show.
So yeah, that's my line. I have a 4th one, which is Mamabora, but it's super popular. It never like stops. So I currently don't have it. But the Mamabora has sweet potato, it has pumpkin, it has soya beans, it has maize, it has millet. So that, like I said before, helps a person who's trying to gain weight, somebody who's a picky eater, somebody who's unwell. And to that, you can add either of the nut butters that are here, the peanut, cashew, almond, to add extra nutrition, or you can even add like an egg yolk. The Mamabora, which is this one. This is my second favorite. The Mamabora has oats, terere, millet, sim, avocado seed flour. Avocado seed flour is really good for your pelvic floor. It's really good for if you're having issues with libido. It's good for lowering cholesterol. Beetroot, of course, for iron. Flax seeds. Postpartum moms have such issues with constipation. So flax seeds are really good for the constipation. And then also with your baby, just in case the baby is having constipation at the point where you're weaning, you can actually add flax seeds to their food. I've also put barley, which is good for lowering cholesterol, regulating blood pressure. It's good for breast milk production. It's good for brain health. for a mom who's postpartum, because we tend to forget a lot, and also somebody who's in like their 60s, 70s, tending to forget.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe very quickly, because I do need to wrap up, and tell us, how much do the uji mixes go for?
Okay.
Generally?
So I have the Ujibora, this one, which goes for 200. Mtotobora goes for 270. Mamabora goes for 350. And Lishebora goes for 300.
Okay.
Yeah.
And naulizwa kwa nini hakuna baba bora. But and the nut butters and the
nut butters,
sauce.
the cashew nut butter is 500. The almond butter is 700.
Okay.
The peanut butter for this big size is 450.
Okay.
And then the sweet chili sauce is 500. And Baba Bora can use Mama Bora.
There you go.
Even I've also been told about Mzee Bora, they can still use Mama Bora. And Mama Bora is also good for kids because of the oats and all the other ingredients in there.
All right. Well, I need to award a winner. Someone here says, hey, Switch, I'm Victoria, 1-week-old mom today. The ingredients are arrowroots, cassava. Kindly consider me for the giveaway. I hope she's getting them right. Eh?
No, there's no arrowroot.
There's no arrowroots, but there's cassava. Oh, Paul Sana. Too many people have said arrowroots, jikwanini. But another says the uji mix has iron, calcium, arrowroots, nuts, pumpkins. Oh dear, there's no arrowroot. Mwingine amesema sweet potato, soya, and pumpkin. That's Macbeth from Kisumu. Oh dear, how would we get you the package? Nyambura from...
they can inbox me, maybe.
Okay, okay, you can inbox her. Nyambura from Isinya says pumpkin and groundnuts, ingredients in the uji mix. And you're from Isinya. I also have Frida here who says the 2 ingredients are sweet potato and sim for moms. Mwingine amesema pumpkin and cassava. That's Gentrix. Hey, I'm not going to be able to do this on air, but we will award some winners. But thank you so much, Wangeshi, for coming onto the show and sharing your line with us as well.
And they can find me on Instagram at the Mothership KE.
Fantastic. Yeah. And indeed, there's a Mothership Village as well that you're setting up, and all of those details you can find on her social media page. With that said, let's work on figuring out who our winners will be. But in the meantime, you guys get ready for our final segment for the day. Chef Chris Burton from the Boma International Hospitality College will be showing you an international dish. You want to stay tuned and send in your questions to your comments rather to 111 444 111. See you after this.